didn't even coordinate that. I'm really impressed with us. Excellent. Awesome. So I want to introduce the lovely Becky Bons. She's a psychologist. She has a ton of experience working with kids and teens, and she is like one of my favorite kid therapists in the world.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining in. So just wanted to, talk about why I kind of picked this topic to be in our summer series. My background is kids and teen work. I have like strayed away from that as I've continued to be a therapist, especially as I've had my own kids and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. But with the teenagers, I feel like I've always kind of had like a sweet spot for them. I used to run a group with teens at my last job. And I still continue to see teenagers in the work that I do just because I love it. And I feel like we vibe. I'm like, cool. Like I'm not a normal therapist. I'm like a cool therapist for the teenagers. So, Becky, wanted to get your thoughts on just what are some, common things or like what's different about parenting teens than little kids?
I think that, like, what I always like parents to know is the approach is a little bit different. Like, just the way that you talk to them and the way that you help them through things, like your guide, because I think it's about that more of like that supportive parenting and being a guide and collaborative problem solving and working together. I think that's a big thing that I talk to a lot of families about, like that communication piece is different. The way we talk to our kids and the way we help them through things.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I mean, I feel like so much changes from like a 6-year-old, right? Like I think of like my little kids at home and I'm like, okay, I know probably what you need. You like need a nap, you need a snack, we need quiet time, we're overstimulated. And I think the thing that always strikes me with teenagers, because I feel like teenagers like will tell me stuff. It's like weird to me that like teenagers don't like tell people stuff, but like I get it, right? Because I think adults tend to minimize a lot of the experiences of teenagehood because they feel like easy solutions to things. And like an example I always like give to parents when I'm trying to like kind of educate them on this. In like the group that I used to run, I remember we were talking about boys and we were talking about like someone and like someone found out and blah, 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 right? And I like had to stop and I was like, okay, I'm too old for this. Like, why in teenagehood don't you just tell people when you like them? Because like in the adult world, if I don't say I'm interested in you, like nothing's gonna happen, And everyone looked at me like this. Like, not like, I've never thought of that, but like, are you kidding me? Because it's like, if you had a crush on somebody that you worked with and everybody knew that you liked somebody and they didn't like you, and then you had to work with them for 40 hours a week and didn't have an option to leave that job, like, that's complicated,
Yeah.
So I think just I don't know, the dynamics and like the complex feelings, how they tend to think about themselves and they're kind of trying to figure out their identity in those pieces. It gets so much more complex than anything that we as parents can like assume about our kids as opposed to like when they're 6.
And I think it like to kind of bounce off that is like it's really putting yourself back in that space, right? Because I think as parents we've come like years and we've learned all this and it's like, oh, I have that answer. But it's like they are just figuring that out. They're figuring themselves out. That this is the first time they're having to make this complex decision or like consider all these factors. And it's like, how do we want to like coach them through that? Or like it's in putting ourselves back in that space and be like, this is a huge deal,
Yeah. Well, and I love that word that you just said, like the coaching them through it, right? Because I think it really moves from like, what did I write here? Like instead of directive parenting to like supportive, Like if you think about like partners that you had in high school, right? Like a parent telling you to dump that partner it feels so much different when it's like, you know what? I actually don't like how I'm being treated. And no one's made me feel dumb for like getting to this point where I feel like I need to end this relationship, like everyone has my back. I know I have this supportive network. So if I do end this relationship, I know it's kind of like safe to move back into it.
Yeah. And I love that because it reminds me of like curiosity, like going into the situation with curiosity instead of like sometimes for little kids they need more guidance. So you're like, oh, do this or like this is what we're gonna do. But like when you open it with curiosity, like, oh, what decide to try it that way, you know, and go in that way. I think that opens the communication versus like maybe as a parent you say like, oh yeah, you should totally break up with them.
Right.
You know, like you could helping, how do you help them come to that, you know, how do you help them talk it through so they can really like think critically about it, like what you said, like I don't like being treated like this, I want to be treated a different way, and how do I like, what do I do then
Yeah.
with that information?
Yeah. So one thing I wish that like came with our kids at like an early age, right? You're born, you get this like amazing like how-to manual, and then you flip to like the teenage years, like this idea of like collaborative problem solving,
Yeah.
which like sounds really straightforward, but like the pieces of it that I think are so important are like the respect and maintaining the respect and the autonomy within the conversations that happen. So like how I usually explain this, and like feel free to jump in here if like you take a different route or do something else, right? But it's like as a parent, I can bring a problem to you if it's impacting like your health, your education, like legal issues, right? Like I can bring a problem to you if it's legitimately an issue. If it's just something that I don't like, I personally think that's bullshit as a therapist, like, but it like it really has to impact you in some way. So I can say, hey, you don't shower, and that's a hygiene issue for you, and it can create a health issue. What's up with that? You know, and then it is that curiosity, like you said, and like eliciting a response of like actually understanding, why is this thing not happening? Or like I could see another like common one being like, hey, I can see that your like phone did not come down at the charger last night at 10 o'clock. What's going on? What's up with that? Right? Because there's usually a reason. There's usually a reason that it's not coming down at 10, you know? And then it's like listening to that response and then working together to find a solution. And what I found a lot of the time is like teenagers, like smart teenagers, like will set their own limits. They will like, they know what they need, you know, and it also creates that like sense of safety in some ways too, where we know someone's going to like honor and like help us set our own boundaries too. So like I remember I was working with a teenager once who like was just like begging for his grandma to like set a limit. Like, I just want her to say no to me.
Yeah.
You know, because it makes them feel safe. It makes them feel controlled. But also like having that understanding of like, do you need me to say no here?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. What would you add within like the collaborative problem solving piece?
I like that, because like that last question, like, do you need me to say no? It's kind of like, how can I, like, you know, because a lot of times the conversation I'll have with teenagers and their parents is what's helpful and what's not helpful, and having that come from the teen, right? You know, because they have really good insight. Is like, when you say this or do this, this is not helpful, but when like I need you to be here for me in this way, or I need you to like, I need some help setting this limit, or I got it and I need you to trust me, you know. So it opens that door for that collaborative problem solving. Like, I think then parents can really hear them out, and there's that mutual respect that's built. And then too, then you get more buy-in versus just like a teenager, you know, being like, you have to keep your phone down here and I'm going to yell at you. But it's like, well, if we talk through it, then you get a lot more insight, and it's something you can work on together as a team.
Yeah. It really like fosters like problem solving, which I think is really kind of like once you hit, my mom always said this, like, you know, after I was we were 16, like there's nothing more I can do anyway. You know, like I've kind of planted everything, every seed that I can plant. Here are your like top 5 things that I don't want you to do.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Go be free, you know, which I really think is like the thing to know. Like you've kind of like put a lot of like investment in, and now you kind of have to lean into like the trust of like, what is the relationship and what have we built, and how can now I help them move into a space where they are doing riskier things, but they know that they have me to kind of fall back on and problem solve and navigate through, which is like really scary to do as a parent too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like managing our own emotions and watching our reactions, right? Because even I think like back to when I was like, which parent did you want to talk to? The one that would hear you out was like calm approach, right? And Kate, let's figure out how to work this through together. Let me hear you out.
Yeah, totally. What else? What else are things that would be helpful if you could create a how-to guide for parents from a therapist perspective?
I know I guess my biggest things are the communication, because I feel like that's where I see, I mean, naturally teens are using their, like talking to their, using other outlets, and it's just how do you keep that communication open? I think that, because I think that seems to be the foundation to a lot
Yes.
of questions or concerns that come in my door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's that like the mutual respect, the communication, and really I think most parents should be kind of like parenting from this respectful dynamic. And I think that really helps to, I don't know, build kids who like feel confident, who know they have the supports to kind of lean back on and like try a couple things,
Yeah.
try some things and like dare and know that they can like
Yeah.
mess up and still have some support to figure it out. Because really, if you think about like my biggest growing moments probably from high school are like the breakups,
Mm-hmm.
the friend
Yep.
drama, right? All of those things. But I feel like they needed to happen so that I
Yeah.
could be a better friend now,
Yeah.
so that I can look for a really healthy partner now, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And it's like really painful to watch your kids do that, especially when you feel like you should have more control because you did when they were 6.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing of like just trusting, like, okay, I have to trust that they can make some of these like crappy choices now
Yeah.
so that they can learn and like get what they need to be that much more healthy and productive and
Mm-hmm.
have those great relationships in the future.
Yeah. Giving them that space to learn, and the permission to make a mistake, or that it's okay. Like we're learning, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else on this topic from as a kid teen psychologist that you think would be helpful for the masses to know?
I think we touched on a lot of like my main things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the complexities, like that mutual respect, the change in parenting, curiosity, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think the only other thing that I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
now is I think if you have a teenager who is asking for therapy,
Mm-hmm.
like I think that's something to respect,
Mm-hmm.
because I know I've seen a decent number of teens who have been asking and asking and asking and finally get in my office. And like that's their comment of like I've been asking for this for a really long time and then finally this thing happened.
Yeah.
So like I feel like too a lot of the times the teens have an idea of like something's building up for me and I need some support. And sometimes parents aren't acting on it until it's like the thing has happened already or we're kind of at this tipping point, and then it not that we can't do something with that then, but I think just respecting like if your kid is like feeling that for themselves, that's really something to validate and honor as an
Mm-hmm.
adult too. Um, and finding those supports. And I also think the other thing that I would say too is that like I don't think all like kid and teen therapists actually specialize in like kids and teens.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that it's a good fit too, because I think the old school vibe of therapy and something I get from like adults I talked to who did like kid and teen therapy was that like felt very much like the principal's office or that like everything that they were talking about in therapy was like driven by their parents, and in reality, like when I'm doing really good, healthy, productive teen work, like it's totally teen driven,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because they
I
have
tell,
that ability.
absolutely. I tell so all like I think all kids now, like teenagers, like make sure you feel comfortable like sharing those things that you don't want to share with anyone. Like if it's someone that you feel like you can't talk to or you don't want to tell certain things to, you maybe explore other options, because that's the point of therapy, and you want to be super open so that it can be the most
Hmm.
helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So important for everybody, but I think
Oh,
especially teens,
yeah.
because it's harder to advocate for yourself when you're a teenager,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight and being our guest while the lovely Polly is not available for us. And I was really excited to talk this topic with you because I love the teens. I love the teens. I know you love the teens. It works out well. So it's nice to be able to riff with somebody who also has that similar passion too. So I'm very appreciative.
Well, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So happy that we could connect. There's another one in 2 weeks, I believe. I didn't look before what it is. Oops. There's a plug for it. I'll put something out there. So stay tuned. There's more to come with our summer series here on Facebook or Instagram, and then I'll post afterwards onto Facebook as well. So however streaming works, I'm also going to try to get stuff on my website from this. But if you haven't tuned in before and you haven't seen my tech glitches, you can see how good at this whole technology thing that I am. And that's just it's just a journey. We're figuring it out as we go. Awesome. Cool. Well,
All right.
thanks again, Becky.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. 2 weeks next, that Tuesday at 7:45, we'll do the next topic. Um, and we will go from there. Maybe Becky will be back. We'll see. Awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye.